Or the US-Europe relationship further with Scott Lucas, a professor of international relations at the University of Birmingham. Professor, thank you for your time. Does Donald Trump like NATO or not? Does he understand its strategic importance or not?
Donald Trump, first and foremost, likes Donald Trump. If he thinks NATO can boost his image, then fine. But Trump's line has long been that he sees NATO not in terms of its military requirements, not in terms of what it is doing for European stability, but how much it, quote, costs the United States. He treats it, in other words, like a businessman trying to run a balance sheet. And so, no, I think he has really no understanding of the strategic dynamics of NATO beyond that very superficial idea of whether or not it is supposedly costing the U.S. money.
There are two parts to this next question, which is also two parts to the same equation. In other words, NATO's desire to expand further eastwards and bring in more countries as members, but also the consternation that causes the Russian President, Vladimir Putin. Where does Donald Trump fit into that equation?
Donald Trump fits into this in the sense that he personally quite likes Vladimir Putin. Has long expressed his admiration for Putin, and indeed has actually criticized American policy for being too harsh on Russia. When you talk about the specifics of the issues you're bringing into play here, we're talking about an attempt to get stability on that front. I don't think we're talking about, for example, an effort to bring Ukraine into NATO. I don't think we're talking, and haven't talked for years, about bringing a country like Georgia into NATO. The real challenge has actually been Russian pursuit of a more aggressive policy, for example, detaching Crimea, trying to separate eastern Ukraine off from the rest of the country, possibly challenging and threatening the Baltic states. That's where the real challenge is right now. And again, I must hasten to add that while American diplomats may understand that, while the American military may understand that, I don't think Donald Trump has any comprehension of those issues.
You know what, Professor, I think it's very interesting that the two questions I've asked you so far, you've started your answers with a look at the personal attributes of Donald Trump. And so let's just continue on that specific theme.
Sure.
How much do you think it is a problem for European leaders dealing with Donald Trump, because he's said to be a man who can contradict himself in the very same sentence? How can they read the President of the United States and therefore make policies based on who he is?
Oh, I think they can read Donald Trump. They know that he's quite erratic, he's quite unpredictable. They know that the main way to reach Donald Trump is by flattering him. But the implication of that is that European leaders and institutions are not basing their policies on dealing with Trump. They're having to go around Trump to try to talk to the Pentagon, to talk to the State Department, to talk to American economic institutions. In other words, you have to maintain the U.S.-European relationship not with Donald Trump, but despite Donald Trump. I think to an extent that has succeeded. If you look at the fact that Donald Trump, for example, threatening to take the U.S. out of NATO, it was the Pentagon, it was the State Department that got this back onto an even keel, which is, even though the alliance faces great challenges, we're not looking at it falling apart because of the president. And then speaking specifically like an important country like Turkey, American leaders realize that with both the dynamics of President Erdogan and of Donald Trump, it is very important to try to reach some type of negotiated arrangement to maintain American facilities in Turkey, to maintain Turkey as a member of NATO, and not let personalities get in the way of that effort.
Professor Scott Lucas, we appreciate your time. Thank you.